So in school, I was always known as the shy and quiet kid. I laid low and never wanted to bring any attention to myself. I was the typical nerdy introvert who really didn't think that she had anything special to offer to anyone, so I just kept mostly to myself and I had very few friends. Literally, if younger me were to see where I am today and how much I've grown and how I've become confident enough to even post videos on YouTube for thousands of people to watch, little Tika would deadass have a stroke. She would be insanely proud, I'll tell you that, because this would have been beyond her wildest imagination. During my later years in high school, I did start to crack out of my shell a bit and I challenged myself to become more social. And through that, I made more friends and I was invited to more parties and hangouts. Externally, I seemed confident, but internally, I still struggled massively with self-esteem issues. I just became a lot better at hiding it, and it really was more of a case of like a fake it till you make it situation. And this lasted all the way through to my university years as well. When I got older, I started to realize that having confidence and low self-esteem issues is much more than just being shy or quiet or introverted. Like, yes, it can manifest as those things, but truthfully, the issue runs much deeper than that. Having low self-esteem is extremely exhausting, and it's because you're in this battle with yourself where you're constantly thinking that I'm never good enough, and because of that, other people probably hate me or think badly of me. It's thinking that, I don't deserve good things because I'm just not pretty or rich or talented or athletic or whatever enough. And for me, this lack of confidence really led to other very damaging behaviors, such as people pleasing and hiding who I really am in front of prospective friends and romantic partners, which kept me from having fulfilling and genuine connections with people. And finally, it led me to accepting a whole lot less than I deserve in so many areas of my life, especially with things like my career and my relationships. But in the past few years, I learned about two things that just completely turned my life around and has given me this unshakable sense of confidence for the most part. So if you struggle with low self-esteem and confidence issues, then I hope that these can help you too. The first thing that I realized is that you really just need to be okay with being disliked by other people. And I know this is a lot easier said than done because from an evolutionary perspective, human beings were wired to want to be liked by others in the tribe because otherwise it could be really detrimental to our survival. Confidence really comes from being brave enough to fully be yourself around others and to not be so fazed when others reject the real you. This is somewhat embarrassing to admit, but I have been a people pleaser for most of my life. And although I've broken out of that for the most part now, I do find myself falling back into those tendencies from time to time. One of my biggest fears was being disliked by other people because the foundations of my self-worth was built on the opinions of other people. It took me a surprisingly long time to realize that this is a very painful way to live because number one, I could never be my true authentic self, and that alone was a really suffocating environment to be in. And number two, I just didn't know who was really there for the real me and who was only there for the version of me that I portrayed to them. My life really started to change when I stopped seeing others disliking me as rejection and started to see it as redirection. It's adopting the mindset that, hey, I'm not for everyone, and that's perfectly okay because there are going to be a bunch of people out there in the world who are for me. If you want to be loved deeply, you need to be prepared to be equally as hated from time to time. And that is just the price that you have to pay for a real connection. This applies to friendships, relationships, and even in business. In dating, sometimes it can be really tempting to hide certain parts of ourselves in front of the other person because we really just want to impress them. And to be honest, we've all done this before to different degrees. If I had to pinpoint one experience though that really just shook me out of my people pleasing, it was staying in a relationship that was never meant for me. This person's lack of affection and emotional investment in me really triggered my lack of self-worth, and my self-confidence issues resurfaced in very extreme ways. I mistakenly thought that I needed to earn this person's affection. It was as though I wanted to prove to them that I was worth their time and effort. I thought maybe the reason why he wasn't invested enough was because I was inherently not enough. But girlies and guys, let me tell you one thing. You should never have to win someone else's affection. It really is either just there or it isn't. And that is not something that you can control, and that is not something that you can ever force. Back then, if I had just accepted that this person not liking me as much wasn't the end of the world, then I really would not have stayed as long as I did, and I would not have prolonged my misery. I kept thinking, my work here isn't done. Maybe if I just tried a bit harder to become prettier or more this or that, or do more of the things that he liked, then eventually maybe he'll come around. We've been conditioned from a very young age through school that, if we just studied harder or applied ourselves more, then we would eventually get the results and the grades that we want. But love and relationships don't follow the same principles. Just because one person doesn't see your worth, it does not make you unworthy. They just didn't happen to be the right person for you, and there are going to be a bunch of other people out there who are going to appreciate you for exactly who you are. And all you need to do is just to be yourself in the most unreserved, most unapologetic way, and whoever is meant for you will stay. And the best part is they will stay for all the right reasons. The second thing about confidence is that you need to build your stack of evidence. There's this quote by Alex Hormozi, who is this entrepreneur, and he basically says that you don't become confident by shouting affirmations in the mirror, but by having a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are. And I absolutely love this quote. If someone were to ask me, what's one trait about yourself that you really like? For me, one example of an answer would be that I think I'm a very disciplined person. I've created this positive narrative of myself around the fact that I think I'm a disciplined person. How confident you are is directly correlated with how deeply you actually believe in this positive narrative that you've created for yourself. If you kinda sort of believe that you're a disciplined person, then you're kinda sort of going to have confidence in yourself. And the strongest, most surefire way of strengthening that self-belief is by creating first-person evidence that you are this disciplined person. So for me, building that stack of evidence, especially over the past year, has looked like eating healthy consistently and being consistent with going to the gym 4 to 5 times a week, no matter what, working on content for YouTube every single week, and just basically doing all the things that I know needs to be done regardless of how I feel, because that is the definition of discipline. And the more I did this and the longer I did it for, the higher and higher my stack of evidence became, which over time really reinforced that positive narrative. It's basically reaffirming to myself that, yeah, I am this disciplined person. Look at all this proof that I have. Stephen Bartlett also talks about this in his book, The Diary of a CEO. He has this whole chapter about changing your self-beliefs by creating evidence for yourself. And the example that he gave is of someone who wants to become more confident speaking on stage. Someone lacking confidence in their speaking abilities is not going to become confident just because their mom tells them that they're a good speaker. What they need to do instead is to acquire first-party evidence by speaking on stage several times over, getting better each time, and then building that stack of evidence through the form of positive feedback from the audience with each and every performance. Another really important thing that he mentions is that the true test of a person's character is what he or she does when no one else is watching. Basically, who are you when there isn't an audience? Do you still do the thing that needs to be done, or do you only do that when you have someone holding you accountable? For example, are you only motivated to work out if you can take a gym selfie for everyone on Instagram to see? Or are you the kind of person that goes regardless, without needing external validation and without caring whether people even know that you go to the gym or not? It's all well and good to want to build this stack of evidence for yourself, but if you only do that when other people are watching, then this stack is not going to be as strong. Let me know in the comments below if you guys have struggled with self-esteem and confidence issues as well, and what has helped you personally in the past to deal with that. I'm really curious to know, and I'm pretty sure that the community would really appreciate that as well. Okay guys, as always, take care and see you in the next video.